My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my review of Superbad. But a better title for this movie would have been Super Great. But anyways, this review will have spoilers, so there's your warning. But I have rewatched this movie so many times in my life, and it's still fucking hilarious. Like, without exaggeration, this is one of the greatest comedies ever made, and it's just pure perfection from beginning to end. So let's begin by talking about the cast, and Michael Cera is fantastic here. He just brings Evan to life so incredibly well with the right amount of likability and awkwardness, and he's just really funny throughout this movie. Like, some of his line delivery is just pitch perfect. And Jonah Hill. Look, if you ask people what their favorite Jonah Hill performance is, they'll say Moneyball or War Dogs or Wolf of Wall Street. And understandably, but this is still my favorite performance of his. He just brings so much energy and personality here, and I feel like we all knew somebody like him. Like, he's an asshole. He's loud, he's crude, he's crass, but he does actually care about his friends. He just doesn't always go about it the right way, and Jonah Hill just played Seth to perfection. Martha McIsaac is really great in this movie as well, and I kind of wish she was in more movies because she's very cute, she's very charming, she's very likable, and she really stands out despite her minimal screen time, and I really like how authentic her chemistry with Michael Cera was. We then got Emma Stone, who I believe this was her first movie, and she definitely stands out. She's likable and quirky, and she has lots of personality. And Christopher Mintz-Plasse is just comedy gold throughout this movie. He's so awkward and weird, but you can't help but love him, and he just steals every scene he's in. Seth Rogen is also hilarious throughout this movie, as is Bill Hader. And I totally forgot Joel Truglio, aka Charles from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, was in this movie, but he does a pretty good job as well. So everybody in this movie is firing on all cylinders, and I love how every character felt believable. I loved how every character had personality, and every character does have a level of depth to them, and I also like some of the morality of the characters, especially Evan. Like, he was just a genuinely good guy, and you see that throughout the movie. But it's a comedy, so does this movie make me laugh? Yes, yes. I watched this movie for the 15th time last night, and I was still laughing out loud. And I actually feel like I sometimes forget just how funny this movie is. Like, that scene early on where Evan is staring right at Becca, and she catches him, and he's just like... It's actually a very relatable moment. I like it when Evan and Becca are talking and they say bye, but then they're walking in the same direction. So Evan picks up his pace just a little bit. Like, it's that believability and that relatability that really does elevate this movie and make it funny. The scene of McLovin following that girl around, staring at her butt, and she stops, turns around, and he's just like, "It's 4:37. The whole backstory of Seth drawing dicks all the time is just comedy gold, and how his parents thought he was possessed by a dick devil. Love it. I love the whole scene where, like, Evan, we're losing 2-0. Greg, we calm down, it's just soccer. Hey Greg, remember when you pissed your pants? That was 8 years ago, asshole. People don't forget. It's so funny. The entire McLovin thing is every bit as funny now as it was when this movie first came out. The whole conversation with the police officers about how there's no semen at crime scenes. The scene where the police officers are at the bar and there's all these calls for help and they just keep changing the radio. There's just the period blood scene. There are so many hilarious moments throughout this movie, and I just find myself laughing nonstop. I also think this movie has some very quotable lines, kinda. Like, one of my favorite movie lines ever is when Jules is like, and Seth, if you scratch our back, we'll scratch yours. And Seth is like, well, Jules, the funny thing about my back is that it's located on my cock. When Evan and Becca are having sex and she's like, oh wow, it's so nice. And Evan's like, I'm sure you would too if you were a man. Oh, there's even like one scene where he's just like, oh, what is it? It's about being misinformed. Ah, shit, I forgot. I like when the police bust the party and they're just like, we assume you all have guns and crack. This movie just fully delivers on the comedy. Oh, and Seth accidentally headbutts Jules and she's just like, what the fuck? Her line delivery there is so good. And I also just like how relatable this movie feels. Like, some of the conversations between Evan and Seth are crude and crass, but they are the kind of conversations people had in high school when they were discovering alcohol and sex and all that stuff. Like, I love when Evan's talking about how girls can just, flaunt it proudly, but if a guy gets an erection, he has to hide it. The conversations are really funny. I also like how so much of the plot of this movie is about them trying to get booze. Like, not saying I did this, but as a kid, I remember how difficult and how scary it was to try and get a boot. But I think one thing that really does elevate this movie is, despite all the crudeness and crassness, it has its heart in the right spot. And I really do like how Evan refuses to sleep with Becca because she's drunk. Even though he's drunk, he still doesn't want that to be how it happens. And there's also lots here about, these two people who have pretty much grown up together. The very beginning of this movie has Evan and Seth talking on the phone until Evan just gets into the vehicle. Like, it just shows you how close they are, like that. And at the end of this movie, they're about to go to different schools and they have a love for each other, but, they're probably going to go separate ways in life. And that's just what happens. There's so many people I was close with around high school, and I haven't seen them since. And nothing happened. You just kind of grow apart. And I find the ending of this movie, Evan is going to go with Becca and Jules with Seth, and it's what they wanted, and there's maybe a future for those two couples. And Seth just keeps looking up at Evan at the top of the escalator, and it really does hit me in the feels. So yeah, I think this movie delivers from an emotional standpoint as well, and I like how the story escalates. Like, so much of this movie is things going from bad to worse to worse to worse, and I kind of like how it begins with Seth just parking in the faculty parking lot because he's a lazy asshole, and how things just escalate from there. I also do think this movie is incredibly well paced. It's a very entertaining movie to watch. It never slows down. It's never not funny. And I like the animation style of the opening. My only issue is, and by the way, this isn't a legitimate issue, but I don't care if you dump laundry detergent and wash out the container. I would not drink booze in it ever. Just no, absolutely not. That is disgusting. But I really do have a fondness for this movie. You know, it just feels so relatable, and it's so hilarious, and it's so quotable, and the characters have so much personality, and the cast does a great job. This is just an absolute gem of a movie, and it still manages to be real emotional. So I'm giving Superbad a 9 out of 10. Okay, have you seen Superbad? What did you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for more videos soon. And Gavin